Homan, thank you so much for joining me. I want to ask with something that you said last night, that your deportation operation starts today. Did it?
Yeah, ISIS, they're out there enforcing law out today. And of course, as I've said numerous times, they're concentrating on public safety threats. That'll be our priority right out of the gate. So ICE officers are back to doing their job.
Where are these, are they actual raids? And how is it different from what we saw yesterday or the day before?
Well, look, I wouldn't call them raids. They're target enforcement operations. They know exactly who they're looking for. They know pretty much where they'll find them. So, again, these are well-planned operations. They're well investigated, so they got a lot of backup information when they go out there. A whole team goes out for officer safety concerns. So this happens throughout the nation. I mean, I'm not going to tell you specific locations out of officer safety concerns, but ICE is back doing their job effective today. They haven't been able to do it for 4 years.
Well, I'm going to follow up on that in 1 second, but who is ICE going after right now? I know that you and others said several times that it is the people who pose the biggest public safety threat to Americans who would be approached and deported first. Is that still the case?
Yes, people in the country illegally that have a criminal conviction that makes them a public safety threat. That's our priority.
That should be natural. I do think that anybody that's in the country illegally needs to answer for themselves, and they need to get here. They need to get here legally, and they need to go through the process. But it goes without saying that we should be targeting the worst amongst us first. Honestly, listen, I don't think that this should only be as far as illegal immigrants. I think that anybody that has a warrant that is the most egregious amongst us, we don't even have to wait for just the United States of America's immigration enforcement to do this. This should be happening in the black community. This should be happening in the white community. It should be happening in the culture. We know who the killers are. We know who the dealers are. I think that this should be a cultural norm. For whatever reason, we have to wait for somebody to give us the authority to be able to take care of our business inside of our own communities and our own cultures. The only reason why stuff be so messed up as much as it is, a lot of times is because we don't actually participate in the success of our own communities. And so when you see these crazy people walking around, or some of the worst of society walking around, you already know who the problem child is. Parents know who's going to be their problem child when they start to raise them. And so we know what's happening within our own communities. This should not even only be extended to, immigration. And I know that that's what the big subject is because that's what we voted for. But realistically, we need to be having this conversation culturally. This needs to be normalized within our society.
How are you finding them?
Again, these ICE officers across the country
would he tell her that?
have a 90-10 docket. They know who these people are. When they don't show up in court, they fail to leave as ordered by an immigration judge. Or they have, NCIC information on someone who's arrested for a violent crime here that's in the country illegally. They take those leads, they do investigative work, and through that work, try to find out where these people may be located. And that's the whole investigative piece they do before they go out and actually make an arrest.
And so what is happening as we speak is limited to those with criminal records?
That's the target of this operation, but like I said many times, in places like sanctuary cities where we can't arrest a bad person in the jail, we would like to have access to the jail to arrest a criminal alien in the safety and security of a county jail, which is safer for the community, safer for the...
And I don't understand it. Why are these blue cities and these blue communities not working with immigration and customs to get people that are in jail out of the United States of America? But it takes our taxpayer dollars to continue to house them, feed them, and then release them out to society, to wait till they do something even more egregious, like Lake and Raleigh, before we can try to get them out of here. Y'all need to vote these blue cities, all of these people in these blue cities, out of here.
The officers is safer for the alien. But when you release a public safety threat out of a sanctuary jail and won't give us access to them, that means we got to go to the neighborhood and find him. And we will find him. But when we find him, he may be with others. Others that don't have a criminal conviction but are in the country illegally, they will be arrested too, because we're not going to start. This is the difference between the last administration and this administration. ICE is going to enforce the immigration law. There's nothing in the INA, the Immigration Nationality Act, says you got to be convicted of a serious crime in order to be removed from this country. So There's going to be more collateral arrests in sanctuary cities because they forced us to go in the community and find the guy we're looking for.
So listen, all right. So since y'all don't want to play nice, if we have to go and find them in the neighborhoods and we find out that they are surrounded by other people that are here illegally, even if they are not convicted, even if they are not the worst amongst us, whereas you would have had time to get yourself together and get things right and get things in order, everybody going. Everybody is going down. I like that. I love this guy.
Let me just make sure that I understand what you're saying, because at first you said that the first targets are those with criminal records.
Why Dana
but
Bash be
you
acting
are
so
also
dense?
saying that those who are undocumented in the U.S., also who don't have criminal records, people who are working in their communities, maybe even have spouses who are American citizens,
see?
they could be swept up with ICE today as well?
What I'm
She's
telling
so
you is when we
dense.
go find our priority target, which is a criminal alien, if he's with others in the United States illegally, we're going to take enforcement action against him. We're going to enforce the immigration law.
What happens then? So the ICE officers
You go home.
gets an individual or a
She
set of
is-
individuals
CNN
and
gotta do a better
apprehends
job.
them. What next? What do these ICE officers do with them? Because in some cases, and you know this far better than I, they haven't been deported in the past because their country of origin won't take them.
Well, what happens after arrest? They're taken to an ICE office and they're processed and put in detention. While they're in detention, ICE officers work on travel documents. The host country sends travel documents saying, yeah, this is our citizen, this is our national. Then we make flight arrangements. So they could be in detention from a few days for a few weeks until that removal was made happen.
What if the host country doesn't want them, as has happened in the recent past?
We
won't
have
take them?
various plans. We have various plans. Other countries are willing to take them. We have third safe country removals. So that's something we're working through. But I think you're going to see less of the recalcitrant countries. Countries won't take their citizens back under this president, because this president has vowed that these countries will take them back. So I'll leave that up to the White House. But there will be negotiations with those countries who are pushing back on recalcitrancy, and they will be removed.
You know, I think that there is some
Grown-ups
kind of,
back in office.
Image that people might have, given how much we heard President Trump and you in the months during the campaign, and certainly during the transition, talking about what's going to happen of people being rounded up, loaded on buses, and dropping them off on the border. Is that how you see this happening?
Well, I don't like the analogy of rounding up. Look, again, this is a targeted enforcement operation. The president's been clear on this. We're going to concentrate on public safety threats. But in sanctuary cities, where they don't let us take that public safety threat into custody and the safety and security of a jail, we have to go find him. If he's with others in the country illegally, ICE will not turn the blind eye to that. ICE is going to uphold the oath they took. They're going to enforce the laws enacted by Congress and signed by a president. And they're going to do that without apology. I mean, if sanctuary cities force us in this position, that's exactly what's going to happen.
How many deportations
And he's been very clear about
do you
that.
think that you can carry out this year? Last year, for example, the Biden administration did deport about 270,000 people, which is the most since 2014. I know you said ICE has not been doing its job, but there have been a lot of deportations. What's going to happen coming up?
That is not accurate. The Biden administration is hiding the numbers. If you look at those removal numbers, over 80% were Border Patrol apprehensions on the border that were immediately removed. They weren't ICE removals. If you look at what ICE has done in the interior of the United
Thank
States
you for
under 4
clearing
years of
that up.
President Biden, they have the lowest numbers of removals in the history of the agency, despite a historic illegal crisis on the southern border. So they can claim 240,000, whatever removals. That's simply not the fact. And under the Trump administration, were there fewer removals? Yes. And why was that? Because we secured the border. We weren't releasing millions of people in the United States to have to go find and remove. So it doesn't matter how many people were deported, it's how many people were released in this country, and millions were released into this country by the Biden administration that were not released by the Trump administration.
I just want
I'm so glad that he addressed that and he just straight up shut that down. Listen, don't sit here and juice the numbers on us and try to say, oh no, we removed more people than any time since 2014. Bull. We know that it's nonsense. We know that it's not true. You was catching them at the border a lot of times and preventing them from coming in and being able to juice the numbers. That's not ICE detention removals. That's not immigration enforcement. What that is that's you juicing the numbers to try to make things to be a little bit different than it really is. The reality is that you have to have a two-step approach. You have to prevent people from getting in here illegally in the first place, which they then allowed for millions of people to come over into our borders, and you have to get the people out of here that's not supposed to be here. And I don't understand why that's a hard thing to comprehend for CNN and Dana Bash in
I
particular.
want to be clear, I'm not obviously getting these numbers out of thin air. They are coming from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency. You're saying that they're giving us false information?
The numbers are accurate. I'm talking, where do those removals come from? And they're not interior ICE removals. 80% of those removals were arrested by Border Patrol. So ICE didn't make the arrest, Border Patrol did, and they were removed by ICE on the southern border.
Understood. You told my colleague Caitlin Collins in December that you didn't know how many people you're going to deport because you didn't know the resources that you would have. How much money do you, and I understand that you've been in this job now for a matter of hours, but you've been working on it ahead of time for a long time. Do you know how much money you're going to need from Congress to carry this out?
Look, I've been working with members of Congress, and the whole team's been working on to come up with a number that makes sense. But like I've said many times, we're going to use whatever money we have and do the most efficient operation we can. The more money we have, the more we can do. And I think this election proves that the American people support the removals of criminal aliens in this country. So I'm looking for Congress to come through and give us the budget we need.
I think that this guy is he need the Nobel Peace Prize. He absolutely does. Listen, y'all, let me know what y'all think inside of the chat. Make sure you tab into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Also, teach Henley 40% off your first order plus 20% off of life. I love you. I appreciate you. Get ready. Buckle up. It's about to get ugly.